This tutorial, you'll be learning how to pattern this beautiful kimono bubu kaftan with mixed fabric. It also has front pockets with ruffles. This dress is actually beautiful. It has a high neck and slit. This is what I have right here. You can see my high neck and it's also patterned. If you look at this dress, you notice that the fabrics are everywhere, okay? You are going to learn the tips and tricks to putting this fabric everywhere. This kimono bubu kaftan is actually very beautiful, especially the patterns are so beautiful with the front pockets and ruffles in it. You can see how this dress is patterned. It's actually two fabric I use right here. I will share the tips and tricks with you. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial. I'm using two Ankara fabric, different Ankara fabric, one for the men dress and for the patterning. I'm using only 2 yards for this project. It's my leftover fabric. So I have just 2 yards and a little remaining from the 2 yards. So I'm going to place this fabric into 2. After placing it into 2, you'll be having a fold, as you can see me do right there. So make sure you arrange very well as you fold into 2. Then next, you can see the fold right there. So we are going to fold it again another time, making it 4-time folding. Now you can see the fold at the beginning and the center front right there. So we'll take the neckline depth. The neckline depth is 3 inches. The neckline width is 3.5 inches. I'm going to connect the neckline. So there is no border line or no shoulder seam line for this. It's just on the fold right there. So the back neckline is 1.5 inches. I'll connect the 1.5 inches back neckline to the 3.5 inches width. This is how your neckline is supposed to look like. Then it has a keyhole. I will drop the keyhole at 4 inches for the front dress. After connecting the keyhole for the front dress, I'm going to take the measurement of my shoulder divided by 2, which is 8 inches. Then I'll measure my sleeve. So I'm taking the whole of that fabric at 15 inches for the sleeve. Then we are going to take the vertical measurements. I'm taking my hip measurement alone. My shoulder to hip is 29 inches. I'm going to rule a straight line across it. Now on that shoulder to hip measurement, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4, which is 12 inches. I added 5 inches to it. 5 inches to it. So altogether I have 17 inches on the hip line. I will come over to the sleeve. I'm going to take my sleeve at 11 inches. I'm going to mark inwards at that point. Then I'll pick up that 17 inches and I'll measure it on that sleeve line. So we'll be able to get the kimono curve. So I'm marking from that sleeve line straight to my hip line and I make the kimono curve. Then I'll draw the line up to the hem line. After making that, I'm going to take the length of this bubu kaftan. Actually, the length of this bubu kaftan is 38 inches. Then you can add 1 inch for your seam allowance. But for me, I don't want it that high. So I marked my own at my knee line. My knee line is 40, but I added 1 inch for hemming allowance, which gave me 41 inches. Now I'm going to rule the 41 inches, which is the length I'm using. So you can use 38, you can use your knee line. It all depends. On the knee line, I marked 17 inches, which I got on the hip. I want to increase the sleeve line by 12 inches. So I just increase it by 1 more inch, which is 12 inches instead of 17. Now I'm going to cut out right away. So I'm going to cut straight all the way to the hem. Once I get to the hem, I kept the other fabric, as you can see. Now I'm going to cut out the back neckline only the back neckline. After cutting the back neckline, we are going to separate the back and front. So we'll be able to cut out the front neckline with the keyhole in front of it. So after that, arranging it, make sure you arrange very well before you cut that neckline. So after arranging, I'll go ahead to cut, as you can see, and I'm going to slit the keyhole up to the 4 inches line. Now the fabric I'm using to pattern this dress is just 1 yard. This 1 yard, I'm going to place it on fold on the yardage part. So on the yardage part, it has to be on fold. Then the length of Ankara is 45 inches. So the 45 inches length will run the other way. So on the yardage part is, you fold it on that yardage part. I believe you understand. So this is my 1 yard of fabric. I folded it on the yardage part. After folding it, I'm going to place the main fabric on top of it. Now we are going to make a facing with it, as you can see. Now make sure you align this very well. I aligned it very well, so that the center front and the center back will align very well. So the next thing is to mark your shoulder line. That is my shoulder line, and I'm going to measure my waistline at 17. So that waistline at 17, that is the point at which this facing will start. I also placed for the back, but for the back I just use 16 inches. Remember, it's 1 yard I'm making use of here, so I put it more to the front than to the back. After that, I have to trace out the neckline and also open up the slits to the 4 inches line for the facing. The next we are going to do is to trace out the armhole. Now you are going to trace everything as if you are making a new dress that is up to the length of 17 inches. So we are tracing everything out, as you can see. After that is done, the next I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it around. I'll turn it around so we'll begin to design. Now this is the slit. I placed 3 inches to the slit to mark that 17 inches again. So this 17 inches is my waistline. I'm trying to cut it off at the waistline. So I will cut it off now. Make sure you secure with your pins and lift up the pattern fabric. So I lift up my pattern fabric. The front is 16 inches and the front is 17 inches, sorry, the back is 16. So actually, I don't actually know how the design for the back of this dress is, but I just felt like doing something unique to fit into the front dress. Now after trimming out, you can see the front where we have the slit. We'll begin to design. So make sure you arrange this fabric very well and note the wrong side. You can see the wrong side of that fabric, so we placed it on the right side. So if you are working on this dress, make sure the facing is placed on the right side. So I'll place my 3 inches neckline to determine the shoulder line. So here is my shoulder line, and shoulder line I'm going to take my bust point line, that is shoulder to bust point. Mine is 10.5, so I marked 10.5, and from the center front I came in by 6 inches. I came in by 6 inches from the center front, and I marked 10.5 inches, which is my nipple to nipple. So the both lines will meet at that point and you begin to curve it. So you can see from that cardinal point, that is where I'm curving. I'll curve it both ways. So you need to be creative at this point. Just make sure you curve it both ways. So after curving it, the way you see me curve it, I'm going to lift up only one piece, please. You can see I'm pinning the other piece. Don't cut the both pieces together because they have different patterns. So you can see how I'm cutting the piece, and that is how you do that. So I've taken off that piece. Now we are going to also pattern the other piece. I'm going to lift up the one we have cut, and I'm going to highlight the bust point line on the other pattern or on the other side. So this is my bust point line, that is shoulder to bust point. From the center front this time around, I'm taking 11 or 12 inches. So if you're on a bigger size, you can take 12 or 13 inches. Small size, 11 inches is okay. Then I'll curve it towards the center front. Then curve it to the side again. That is for the other side. After that, I'm going to cut it out. I'll lift that part up again, and I'm going to cut that shape out. Now you can see the two patterns for the front are cut differently and they are ready. Now we will come over to create the pattern for the sleeve. So for the sleeve, I'll just rule a straight line that will align to the side of the dress. So you can see me ruling the straight line that aligns to the side of the dress. I'm going to lift up the patterned fabric. We are cutting out the pattern fabric because we are going to replace this fabric in so many ways. Okay, so once I cut it out, we have the underlaying fabric on it. So that is the underlaying fabric on it. Now for the back, like I said, I just made any design. So for the back, you can just make any design of your choice. You can even replicate what you have in the front for the back. But I just felt like making something curvy that runs back into the armhole. So you can see how my traces I just went through. So if you want to follow what I did here, you can just follow me and repeat the same thing. So any pattern you want to give to the back, you can just give it. So I'm done with patterning this dress right now. We'll begin to top stitch on it. So to make top stitching very easy for us, I will first of all separate the pattern. I'm taking off my pins. I will keep the main dress, so we'll go to top stitch. Okay, but before top stitching, please, the neckline has to be sewn. So I'm going to place the neckline on the wrong side. Here is my wrong side. You place your neckline or the dress on the wrong side. Then you are going to bring in the pattern. So the pattern is going to kiss the right side. That's the pattern right side will kiss the wrong side of the main fabric. And then you begin to pin, secure with your pin. So I'm going to pin at these junctions on the keyhole slits. Then I'll take it all the way the neckline. For this neckline, you actually need to pin, and that is what I'm doing. So you'll be able to get a very perfect neckline. Arrange the facing and the main dress very well. Now I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch all around, as you can see me tracing out. I'll go over to my machine and I'll follow the traces of my chalk line and I will stitch accordingly. So I will stitch completely now. So after stitching, don't forget to make this notch on the keyhole line. Very, very important. And on the round neckline too. Then we are going to top stitch. For the top stitching, I'm going to flip all my seams to the fabric and top stitch very gently on the fabric. Please, on the fabric, that is where you are top stitching. So I'll go over to the machine and flip all my seams and top stitch both the keyhole. After top stitching, you are going to fold the keyhole edge the way I'm folding it. I believe you are seeing it. Just to make sure you have a perfect edge when you turn it to the other side. I'll fold in on the seam line, fold again, and then hold it on and turn. So this is the technique or the trick I use to turn square edges, whichever square edge I have. Then I'm going to put the dress or the facing to the front. Once you put the facing to the front, you can see how neatly finished this keyhole neckline is. Then you can proceed to giving it a good press. Here I have given it a good press and it's looking neat and clean. The next we are going to do is to start top stitching on top of this dressy pattern. So I'm going to use my bias. I'll place my bias right side to right side and I'm going to stitch just a bit and use it to turn. Here on the machine, this is how I'm placing my bias right side to right side, and I'm going to stitch as if you are, finishing your neckline. But I'll just stitch it all the way. Once I get to the curve, I'll raise my presser foot and then turn the fabric around to take the other curve. So you can see how I'm doing it. I'll go ahead like that till I get to the end of it. So right here I'm at the end and I'm going to cut off the excess bias. So don't forget to make a notch, okay? At that curve, at that point you really need a curve. You really need a notch, sorry. So you'll be able to flip the bias to the other side and top stitch accordingly. I also made little notches on the curvy part of the back as well. Next, we'll begin to fold in the bias inwards. So you need as much pins as possible in this case because we are going to stitch right on top of our pins. Now I'm folding in. So once I fold, I'll secure with my pin. As I fold, I secure with my pin. So I kept tucking it in the bias to finish up that part. I'll keep doing that till I go round this dress. Now, once you get to that junction, if you feel you did not cut through well, you can just go ahead and cut that junction very, very well. You can even cut out the bias because I even separated the bias so it tucks in for me very well and it does not affect anything at all. Now I'll keep folding just to get that sharp point. Now I'm done top stitching right now. The next I'm going to do is to top stitch the sleeve area. So you also fold the sleeve area and go ahead and top stitch that part. So you can see this dress is actually technical, but then if you follow this tutorial you'll be able to get the dress very perfectly and clean. So I kept top stitching as you can, I pinning as you can see, and I'll run my top stitches all around. So here I am top stitching the dress on top of the bias I folded in, and you can see my pins right there. So after top stitching that part, I top stitched the sleeve area as well. Now we are going to give it a good press once you are done. So this is what you are going to have. I gave it a good press. After giving it a good press, we'll begin to work on the patterning. This is the neckline and the width is 2 inches and the length of this pieces is 6 inches. The width is 2 inches, the length is 6 inches. So I'm going to fold half an inch all around to create that piping. So I folded half an inch on the other edge, half an inch in between like this, then the other way half an inch. So after you are done tucking everything in, we are going to fold it the final time and then iron it out as you can see. Now we are going to use this piece to pipe this neckline. I'll just tuck the neckline inside it to create that pattern you saw right there on the video. I'll go over to the machine now. So this is it. We'll just tuck it in. I brought my camera very closer so you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to place it inwards, that is the neckline, and use it to wrap it up. Now as I'm stitching or top stitching, is top stitching the back too. So I kept top stitching, as you can see, until I got to the end. So this is what I got after I'm done, and it gave this neckline a very beautiful design. Now for the sleeve area, we are also going to pattern the sleeve. So for the sleeve, I am going to take my measurement of where I'm going to cut out. So 4 inches, you take down 4 inches and cut out the remaining. Please don't throw away that remaining. Another 4 inches, and I marked 3 inches inwards from the sleeve grain line. Then I'm going to connect that 3 inches from the sleeve grain line to the side of the sleeve. That is for the first pattern. And for the second pattern, from that sleeve grain line, I marked 4 inches and 4 inches. So the 4 inches on the horizontal, I connected it diagonally to the side. So we are cutting out these patterns now, and we'll replace it with the Kampala fabric which we are working with. So here is the fabric. I placed it to cut it out. But then I'm going to secure with my pins very well. Now instead of adding 1/2 inch for my seam allowance, I went ahead to add 1.5 inches. Okay, so once I stitch, it will make my sleeve to go down a little bit more. So I added 1.5 inches, as you can see right there. Now I'm going to take off the main fabric and replace it with the Kampala fabric which I'm using right here. So you can see how I'm going to replace it. So I'll go ahead and stitch 1/2 inch and top stitch on it. Okay, so at the end of the day, everything gives a beautiful design right there. After top stitching, I'm going to hem the down part. Then I'll also replace this part of the sleeve with my Kampala fabric, and I also went ahead to add 1.5 inches which I'll use to stitch to the sleeve area. Now I will go ahead and replace. So I'm trying to trim off that so it will be straight. Now I'm going to replace the Kampala fabric with the main fabric and top stitch. So after top stitching, you can see what we have right there on the replacement. I want to create that triangle. So you just make a little bias that will form the triangle and measure 3.5 inches downwards and 3 inches the other way. So this is a triangle. I'll fold the edges and then go over to my machine and stitch on it. So I'm going to measure 7 inches or 6 inches from the sleeve grain line and place it like a triangle and stitch. So here I've already placed it and I'm trying to top stitch on each side. After stitching the other side, you can see that triangle design. So it's looking very fine and beautiful. I gave it a good press as well. So the dress is very much ready right now. Next is to hem the sleeves, then attach the rope or the strip. So this rope width is 2 inches and the length is 25 inches. So I'll just fold and sew my rope. Of course, you know how to sew a rope. Now I will get the sleeve grain line marking, and we are going to put the rope together and top stitch on it. I'll go over to the machine to do that. So after that, you can just make a very beautiful bow. So I went ahead and made a very beautiful bow, as you can see. Then I did the other way too. So here my pocket is ready. The length of my pocket is 13 and the width is 10 inches. I'll go ahead and fold in 1 inch on top of the pocket. I'll first of all fold in half an inch and 1 inch, then fold half inch all around. Of course, you know how to create a pocket. Then I got some ruffles which I took the length of the pocket times 3. So wherever you are attaching the ruffle, just multiply by 3 after taking the measurement. Then I got the center front of this kaftan, came down by 4 inches, went in by 4 inches, and mark a straight line that aligns with the center front. Then I place my pocket on it, secure with my pins, and then I'm going to trace out the pocket on the main dress. So by the time we start sewing, it will serve as a guide. Then on the other side, I measure 4 inches again and aligned the center front vertical line to it and kept my pocket as well. So the upper pocket should be on top while you secure with your pins and trace. The next thing I'm going to do is to sew the ruffles. I'll lift up the pocket and sew my ruffles. Right here on the machine, I'm putting the ruffles. So I'm just gathering the ruffles with my hand. You keep making gathers with your hand all the way down. So I kept doing that until I finished one side. Once I get to the junction, I'll lift up my presser foot and continue ruffling, as you can see. So I have to ruffle all the way down. So you can cut your nets, maybe 1 yard of net and join them together and ruffle. So here is what I have on the pocket. Next is to sew the side of the dress. I'm going to put the front and the back together, and we are going to sew 1 inch down. After sewing, I made notches at the kimono curve. Please don't forget to make your notches at the kimono curve all the way. So I did it all through to ease that part. Now we are going to hem the down part of this sleeve, and we are done with this tutorial. I believe this class was helpful to you. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive more videos. And don't forget to share this video, like this video, and drop your comments. Thanks for coming, and see you in the next one. Bye.